let's get into Mr. Wendigo here. Palette review over here. Titanium white, brilliant yellow pale, cadmium yellow light, cadmium yellow deep, terra rosa, cadmium scarlet, fanchon red, asphaltum, quinacridone golden brown, Egyptian violet. That's not phthalo blue, that's Prussian blue. Phthalo green, cadmium, no, that's your cadmium green light. That is your permanent green light. Got a little bit of black, burnt umber indigo, Van Dyke brown. And as always, we're going to take one of our big old brushes here and we're going to do our pre-glaze, courtesy of some somewhat thinned down paint and these makeup sponges, which we're going to cut into these smaller pieces right here because this is just fabulous. I still haven't had a chance to get another package of these. I just love the fact, look at this. Not only am I getting a million sponges out of one incredibly cheap sponge, but I actually have, I can actually manipulate, look at that, I can manipulate the shape and the size of these things, which is really fantastic, and you will see not too long from now just how handy that is as we do our pre-glaze on this. Hey Ryder, how are you doing? Let's get into it, and this is going to be oil paints, folks. Oil paints, start to finish. Speaking of starting, we're going to get this started, I think, perhaps with some burnt umber here. And remember, we haven't been doing these quite as liquid as maybe you guys are used to seeing from the early days. And the idea is we vary the color from burnt umber to a Van Dyke brown to a pinch of Egyptian violet, and I mean a tiny bit because we've seen what Egyptian violet can do. Yes, yes we have. Now this might also require maybe a little more liquid in some places to get this to recede where we need it to, which means if I want that to stick it all. Wow, there's a level 2 hype. Hey Bryce, how are you doing? Let's see. That's kind of weird. Somehow I just all of a sudden there was a level 2 hype train emote and I'm like, wait a minute. Where's that coming from? All right, now we're back into our, that's a little bit of a mix right there of indigo. Indigo, asphaltum. Yes, yes, yes. Let's do some asphaltum here because we have discovered that the asphaltum is a really close cousin to our dearly beloved Terra Rosa. So Bryce, how are you doing there? Oh, Eldritch, yeah, check out the Instagrams because I forget what the heck was the. Oh, I know what the latest post was. Yes, that was the creature caster stuff. Now I'm not quite sure. It's either going to be the Rohan stuff or this was what we painted. And I think it was last Tuesday, right? Oh yeah, this was for that Kickstarter. So we'll either be posting this or again more of our faithful, trusty Royal Guard right here. Bryce, just working. Just working. And I'll show you guys some more things that have been done. But yeah, if you want to check out the Instas there might be one or two little tasty treats for you to check out. Because that's where a lot of all the stuff that gets painted here ends up on the Instagram. Oh, thanks, Alman. Here, there's, let's go again. A little bit of a mix of our blue and the green. Now, this little forest of tree things here, that's going to force me to get a little bit more liquid. Now, this is all going to look like basically one shade of dark to you guys. When we pull this away, it's going to look a little different. It's going to look a little different because guess what I just added in there? I just added some phthalo green. It kind of looks just looks all dark to you guys. Not quite just dark. A touch of phthalo green in there. And we talk about staining colors, right? Well, phthalo green, well, anything that says phthalo in front of it, that's a staining color. We're even going to get a little bit of that out onto the, I guess, wood surfaces right here. And thank you so much. And folks, also check out our moderator's Etsy page and Instagram because, well, obviously he is a accomplished and award-winning miniature painter himself too, but he also does fabulous, and I mean fabulous, dice bags. Go check those out. Go check those out. And hopefully that thread finally shows up so that you can, speaking of dice bags, at least get to sew up the rest of those, because that is just seriously nuts. And hey, we did not exhaust it. We did not, maybe we, I guess, I don't know, did we technically exhaust the supply of thread nationwide here? I don't know. What is going to happen here is, though, we're going to actually see that's a little bit of that quinacridone golden brown. I think you can see a little bit of difference here as we do this. That's actually mixing with a little bit of the Egyptian violet. All right, so we've gotten to here. Phthalo green again. You can see how often I clean out the brush, which is, well, very seldom. Very seldom. And this is how everything starts primer-wise. It is simply brushed on Badger Steiner resin. I think this is the light flesh. Yeah. Keep wanting to call it elf flesh, but it's not elf flesh. And basically everything that I do gets primed that color. Even stuff like this. Even all of our, oh, here we go. We've got dinos like so. It all starts out life like this. Hey, Stila, thanks for sending the pics. Ah, the thicker glaze been working for you too. Yeah, I think I just did it thinner because, well, I mean, oil painting, right? How many years did I do oil painting? Well, a lot. And that was always very, very watery. So I just thought, okay, well, we'll do a watery glaze, right? That's how you start oil paintings. Which was great until I started to do things that were not quite so historical and just had more that, well, the object source lighting, right? So when you do stuff that has things like this, well, your pre-glaze bound to be different. I think it was the creature caster thing that really got that party started. I mean, same thing here on Schmandorf, the Not Gray, right? We did a whole different pre-glaze process on him. I'll catch you later there, Eldritch. And thanks again for the raid. I appreciate that. Now let's see. Well, Aratha, you might want to delay that just by a day or two because I don't think we're going to have all the chow until Saturday. So I think you might want to time your arrival for a few days later when there's actually the yummies here. Because, yeah, those won't be in place until later on in the week. So you might want to just delay that a couple of days. Make sure you're getting here not quite on Thursday, a day or two later. That's when the yummy food should be around. Now, I won't be starting the Christmas cookies until actually December. And that might actually have to happen in a couple of runs. I don't know. Because as you recall, we are doing the cookie decorating thing here on the stream. The first annual cookie decorating. Because I think the theme for December is going to be winter is coming. Because, well, we have a you-know-what ton of Song of Ice and Fire stuff to paint, and I mean, there's a lot of it. Thank you so much, Lucid, for the follow. I appreciate that. And if I ever mispronounce a screen name, just let me know. And I'll try to remember. You might have to remind me more than once. Let's see. It's going to be at least a year or two, not going anywhere at times like this. Well, I thought you had your own personal, oh gosh, what is that? A TARDIS, right? I thought you had your own personal TARDIS so that you can just kind of magically teleport back and forth from Norway to here. I mean, wouldn't one of those be handy? I want one. Actually, yeah, I want one. There would be a lot of Korean barbecue. There'd be Korean barbecue every day if I had a TARDIS teleportation device kind of thing. All right, so we're laying this out here, just working our way along, nice and easy here. Nothing crazy. Oh, let's see. Great to see more and more people steal it. It's unbelievable. It's I mean, I can't. I turn around and there's other people talking about it in other conversations. It used to just be kind of like us talking about it, right? And then all of a sudden now it's just everywhere, and people are like, "Oh, should I? I've been hearing a lot about oils. Don't know where from, but I should give them a try." It's pretty weird, isn't it? The difference that what 7 months makes on Twitch. No, thanks, Lucid. Yeah, there's actually a lot that never ends up there. Believe it or not, the stuff on the Instagram might represent 25% of what I'm doing, maybe less. Yeah, barely, probably 20% of everything that I do actually ends up on Instagram because, well, there would be posts every 5 minutes if it if it did. So again, we're just when I can't wait for you to see I'm gonna take a picture of this. I'm gonna snap a picture of this before we take away before we take some of this glaze. I'm gonna throw a little bit indigo for the Wendigo. Steele says we're all gonna end up quoting the Book of Wappel to each other like the Ferengi with the rules of acquisition. I do think so. And hey, what does the Book of Wappel do? It saves. It saves Latinum, right? Doesn't it save Latinum? It saves lots of Latinum. More Latinum, more better. All right, we just and this is why we have 60-cent brushes because we don't feel bad about just jamming this thing in here. Because guess what? The same brush that's been really beat up and tormented, well, that's one of the brushes we're going to be used to be painting our mirror pool diorama right here, which we were sculpting this thing last night. This was a blast. Celeborn's going up here, Galadriel's over here, and the mirror pool's going right here. And on stream, we will be painting the mirror pool Galadriel, and the mirror pool, if as you remember, is going to have the scouring of the Shire in there. So you're going to really need to keep your eyeballs peeled because that's going to be tiny. All right, just snap a quick picture of that. Let's have at it with these guys right here. Different now. Green up here, almost a reddish brown over there. Not a radish. Different color brown over here. See, Nosferatu just got in the 6-2-ounce bottle. Oh, you just got the, How many colors? 6 different colors. I can see my purple over here. Yeah. Man. Look at that. This is just, I know back in the day, you used to take, was it Craypas or something like that, and you would put them on the paper, then you would take like a black one, cover that all up, and then you would take away some of the black and it would reveal the color. Look at all this color underneath here. Look at all that. Well, Kathy usually freehands a Hello Kitty in the cooch area of whatever figure that she's doing. So yeah, if this was Kathy painting this, there would be a whatchamacallit, one of those Hello Kitty faces somewhere. Look at this. Look at all these different colors. Yeah, Bryce wins some Korean barbecue. Be a mite bit tasty. Well, wouldn't it be? It would be. There ain't no question about that. Look at this. It's like it paints itself. And we haven't even gone over that with any kind of opaque stuff or whatever. Look at this. We got greens and browns and purples in here. Oh, I can lighten this up now for you. One second.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark Suck my ganja.
Thank you so much, Yegorla, for the follow. That is appreciated. Oh, the neutral one is good. Ah, the red-brown one is really nice too. So Nosferatu, the that neutral one is very close to the one. Actually, this is the neutral right here. So this is the one of the ones that you have. So that's really good. I think you will like the neutral primer. Ah, look at it. Purple, browns, greens. And remember we got the smaller sponges, right? So I can just kind of stick that in here. Remove some of that. The more I remove, obviously, the closer to primer it's going to be. I'm curious to see what happens when we remove this. One sweep. Because how much of that comes off, but see how the Egyptian violet remains behind? Wow, that sounds very tasty, Stila. Now it would be super convenient if that Korean barbecue was on the way home or on the way to that art store that you went to. Ah, you hit that, and that was a very impressive art store. It was a really impressive art store. Oh, look at all the fun different colors that are on this thing. We haven't even gotten up here yet. So yeah, that's some of our umbers in here doing some fun things. Holy smokes, that actually is. Well, I guess somebody's going to be making a lot of trips to the art store. You'd be like, oh, you know what? My tuba indigo is like 1/5 empty. I best go back to the art store and get another tube. Oh, my Terra Rosa, you know what? It's only like 90% full. I better go back and get some more in case everybody else comes in there and buys it all. I think that's what's going to be happening now. Oh, see a little bit of green left behind there. Not as much as down here. See, that's kind of more of a bluish green right there. Less of a green up there because the phthalo was mixed with something else. But look at all these fun colors that we have. Fun darks and everything. I haven't even started here yet. Let's see. Oh, geez, Nosferatu. Yeah, well, you've heard us talk about how we abandoned all rattle cans. What was it, 15 years ago? Something like that? Well, maybe more like 8 to 10 years ago, I think is probably more accurate. Probably 10. 10 or 11. That's when we found our Steiner res, and that's when we just started. Well, you don't even need an airbrush for this. You just brush that stuff right on. Oh, Snot Rash, I wish I could tell you. I thought this was from Asgard Rising, but I'm not so sure because our moderator looked for it on the Asgard site and it's not there. Now, who knows? Maybe this is some kind of was some kind of Kickstarter campaign or something like that. But I don't know what this is from. I do know it was a digital print, though. That is all I know about it for sure. It was definitely a digital print. Look at this. Look at his skull. There might be some people that would be happy to just throw some flock on this thing and throw it on or just brush a few highlights on there and say it's done. I'm telling you, it's like it paints itself. Now we got cosplaying Kitten in the house too. How are you doing? And folks, be sure to give her a follow. Now, actually, let's see. So I think it was some of the Blood Bowl. That one Blood Bowl commission was one of your last things. What are some of your upcoming miniature painting projects as we just keep wiping away more? Look at this. In effect, what we're doing is the same thing we did on all of our, right here, all of our Ossiarchs done the same way. You can see how the bone is, all the different colors there in the bones and such. We did the same thing here. That's why we got some different reds, almost like a bluish gray and some green over here. Same thing is happening over here. Hey Nixo, how are you doing? So these are your makeup sponges right here. Now I am obviously cutting these things up because that really, look at this. Look at how easy it is to get in some of these places right here. All of these are, it's all oils, cosplaying kitten, and as we always do when we start these things out, we just take some.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my gun.
Thank you so much, J Blubberb. Thank you so much for that follow. We throw on a bunch of different colors here, and then we wipe it away. It's not as much of a watered down pre-glaze as it used to be, but there's almost, look at this. Most of the colors on the palette already are in here. Ah, Nixel just woke up from a nap, and we got Queez in the house too. Uh, Arathu, I I have no idea. I just basically I'd never heard of him before, but the person who has been having me paint things since 2004. He's all big into Viking things, so he just gets whatever. Most of their stuff is more Viking theme for sure than this. No, I don't have the longboats in here, I don't think. But we do this for every single miniature. They all start out this way. Let me see. The quiz. I hope that the weekend is going well for you later. Let's get into some of our. See if we can find some of our. Well, here's one of our homemade filberts, right? Start getting some lighter colors in here. We're going to take some of our off-white yellow. Might even let a little bit of the. It's a little bit of our burnt umber there. You can hear that sound. What's that doing? It's making sure there's not a whole lot of paint on that brush, because once we start hitting this, that paint, well, it's going to start mixing. And you can look at that. See how that's still there on the brush? But it's mixing. So see how that's not looking like a dry brush? It's a dry brush motion, not a dry brush. Because underneath this is all that wet paint. And that is why, see all that dark on the end of that? We got to go back over here. We have to get some new paint. And with oils, less is more. More is way too much. It's way too much. You can see how far back my hand is from the ferrule of that brush. About as far away as you can get. It starts to bring out some nice little texture right there. Look at that. But see how dark that brush is getting? I can maybe get a couple extra strokes out of this side of the brush. Otherwise, got to go back and get some fresh paint. We'll hit some of these. Now this is more of a tree right here, tree element. So I think we're gonna change tacks as far as what we're using to lighten that. But you can see how that's really starting to bring out all that lovely texture right there. Now let's see, Brathu's going to stand 10 feet away, tie the brush to a 10-foot pole, and that way I won't oil your... Well, actually, it'll still get on you. That's still going to get on you there, Rathu. Oils are just like weathering powders. And, what's the other stuff? It's the stuff that we use for basing. Well, basically anything that we use for basing, but especially, the texture pastes. Yeah, Rathu, all that stuff is going to get on your carpet. If you use texture paints, if you use weathering powders, they will all get on you. They will all get on your carpet. It's a tradition that must happen. They will find a way there. In a way that you would least expect. But one way or another, they're getting on your carpet and on you. It's just going to happen. But I have been known to I have been caught painting literally like this. And people say, what are you doing? Actually, I was painting a 1/100 scale Stug at the time. I mean, seriously, that's where my hands are on the brush there. Hey, Aussie, how are you doing? That's a water balloon of oil paint and some firecrackers and a long fuse and a car with the engine running. It depends just how much you've thinned your oil paint. You would be surprised. As anyone who was in Fort Wappel at ReaperCon last year would know, and that was just acrylic paint. Paint has the unbelievable capacity to go airborne. You would not believe just how far some of this paint went when someone exploded a paint jar right by all of my miniatures. They were paint dots 15 feet away, and that was them just squeezing the paint jar. That's all they were doing. So you can see it out. Look at all the fun colors we're starting to get into this. See, Nixel's got the gnomes come in at night and spread it even if you did a perfect job. Yes, speaking of green, if we're going to do tree stuff, we best get some green in there. And the nice thing about the oils is makes it really easy to establish those darks right away, because that's always the biggest pain with the acrylics, is trying to get those darker colors in place. With the oils, they pretty much just say, look here, hold my beer, I'll take care of the scary stuff. You just go sit over there and make yourself look pretty while I do all of the work. That's pretty much what oils do. Which is why I just look so positively gorgeous right now. Absolutely radiant. Now we got that purple in place. You can see it's already started to mix a little bit there on the brush. Which means when I hit this over here, we're going to... look at that. So many nice smooth blends already starting to happen. Oh, Arathu, there was about 300 miniatures that were available to get splattered. Now, there were, of course, the ones that had to be entered into this painting contest later that day. Those were the first ones to get hit with red dots. And it wasn't just any old red paint. It was like intense blood red paint. And that was my, it was these guys right here. Let me see if I can find here it is. It was these guys, yes. All of those had nice red dots all over them. And as you can see, while that is my barbershop navy, red is really limited to one area on those ships. And as you might imagine, the red didn't really hit that same area, sadly. Yeah, Nixel, that is why, well, at Fort Wappel, that was the third bombing of Fort Wappel with red paint like that. So yeah, red paint is now outlawed in Wappelville. You cannot use red paint there anymore. It is no longer allowed. All right, so we just lighten this up here. Yep, honestly, this is a 3D print. Sadly, I couldn't tell you who makes it. I thought it was from Asgard, but it might not be. Unfortunately, when I get miniatures that are commission pieces, they just come in baggies. I mean, a bag of weed has more information on it about its origin than any miniature that I ever see. So, unfortunately, I cannot tell you who actually makes this. I might be able to tomorrow, when I can actually talk to the person and say, okay, who the heck makes this? Because they don't even call it a Wendigo. They call it something else. I don't even know what the heck they call it. Oh, no problem, Aussie. Yeah, I wish I knew. I thought I did. I thought this was another Asgard thing because it came with a whole bunch of Asgard figures. And the resin was even the same exact color. I mean, it was literally the same color. Now, of course, maybe the rocks look a little bit different than some of their other rocks. And I think maybe some of this detail is a little bit sharper than a typical Asgard detail, but I've been wrong before, that's for sure. I've certainly been wrong before. I'll catch you later there, Steel. Thanks for joining, and thanks for sending me the pictures of the art store trip there. That was some really impressive That was an impressive store there. And, well, you'll have to be going there pretty much every day or every week now. Get your Korean barbecue fix. You'll just have to get it for us, I guess, and just have to send pictures of your Korean barbecue so that we can drool over those. We're going to get some more of our white in here, but again, it's very much of a dry brush. I would try to compensate with money and then never show my face at any convention ever again. It was, well, the first time it happened was I was doing a class. It was my very first ReaperCon 7 years ago, and I was going to teach a class. And at that time, I had a series of 7 figures. It was kind of like, see how we've got all these on a board like this? That was sitting in the middle of the table. 7 step-by-step figures. Ah, there's Kathy in the house. And Crozy, how are you doing? So yeah, I told them all, I said, look, these jars of secret weapon stuff, it was one of those washes. And I said, look, these things spatter all over the place. They are very viscous. Don't be squeezing this thing. No sooner did I get those words out of my mouth than the entire table was spattered with blood red dots. And of course, all of my miniatures that were supposed to be a prop for step by step, they were now covered in red dots of paint. So, yeah, that was the first time that happened. Hey, Zoxy, how are you doing? And there's a Kathy in the house. I certainly hope so, because somebody ate half of all the beans. So I'm glad to see that there was someone else here that actually was eating the beans. That they didn't just disappear by themselves. Oh yeah, that's right. It's still Monday. I keep forgetting that. Yes, the second bombing of Fort Wappel, that was Kathy, because oh god, what was the it was the Badger, what is that stuff called? Ghost tints. It was Badger ghost tint dried blood. Yes, not kidding. Badger ghost tint dried blood. Let's just say that it ended up all over me. We'll just go right to the end. It ended up all over me. So you could see now we're taking advantage of, that's the green that we did there, a little bit of the phthalo green right now. We're just putting a little lighter green over the top of that. So how long did it take to get to this point? This is 41 minutes in, and I spent at least 5 minutes chopping up sponges and stuff. So yeah, like a half an hour of actual time messing around with this thing. Who in the audience would like to have this much on something this big after half an hour? I don't know. Ah, fresh blood ghost tint, yeah. Because it was poured into the airbrush cup at maximum fill, like super max. And then when I was handed the brush, it ended up on me, and much hilarity ensued. Now we're going to get some of our Egyptian violet into this. Woof, that is, I'm telling you, that's the one true violet. Everything else is just a pretender. Nothing else is actually violet compared to Egyptian violet. They're all just pretenders. Man, the intensity of that. I so wish, I'm really glad. Now I'm extra glad that my Harad have lots of violet in them. Yes, thank goodness. And I got a bunch more of these to paint, including a Muma kill. Why do I show the Harad there? Because we got pachyderms flattening some Rohan here. So yeah, we will be assembling the giant pachyderm for, I think, December. All right, that's enough with our purple-ish there. Let's go over to, and this is our red color, not radish. Is Arathu still around? Hopefully Arathu is still around here. Now that Kathy's in the house. Well, she always has been. So here I can start to darken up some of this, and I can add some more darks here. I can go with some maybe darks on the ends of the horns or antlers here. I guess I should call them antlers. Can darken some of these other tree-ish like elements. All the while using a 60-cent flat brush, which we trimmed down to turn it into filbert brush. There's Arathu. Yes, I told him if he wants food, he has to show up later, though. If he shows up on Thanksgiving, there won't be a whole lot of tasty treats for him now. Ooh, let's do this. Ooh, let's wander on over to our Terra Rosa here. Why? Because that one's opaque. That's going to do some nice work over here. See, we're starting to get some separation with the greenish plants there. It's all about letting this mix and blend on its own, getting crazy blends that would be really tough to do just on your own, right? Instead of all this mixing and glazing and everything else and layers. To heck with the layers. Oils layer themselves, yes? So here, let's get our collection of sponges off to the side. Let's get a paper towel here, and how's about we just do something like that. That right there, that's a thorough, intense cleaning you just saw right there. Look at how clean that brush is. Voice full of karma said you trim the brush into a filbert from a flat. Where's an actual flat here? No, this one counts as a flat. So I think you can see how the edges of this are rounded? I made the brush wetter and then I trimmed the edges. Actually, you know what? Maybe I want a couple of more filberts here. So here's our Royal Lang Nichols. Just make a couple of these, why don't we? Oh, what the heck, let's make a big one. You can never have too many filbert brushes. So what we shall do, wet this down. You can see how pointy those edges are versus this right here. I'm going to take Mr. Scissors. And kids' scissor races are a lot of fun. More scissor races, more better. And we'll just kind of snip away the ends here. I'll flatten this out again. And you can see we're just kind of trimming away ends of the brush here. So now what I have is something distinctly more rounded than that other shape. So very much rounder. Absolutely love it. Love it. Look at this. How snazzy is that? A do-it-yourself filbert brush. You could have some too. As long as you got flat brushes, you got filberts. Speaking of which, is this yeah, this is my filbert here. How's about we grab a little bit of our cadmium yellow light here. Also, paper towel. Get some of the extra, because remember we want less of this. Oh, let me see. Oh, Arathu, that is what I would be doing myself. Actually, the Bears would normally be playing a Thanksgiving game here. And even there would be some college football on. But sadly, just because of reasons, anything they try to do sports-wise just looks really weird. And the whole sports thing just got really weird this year. So I've just kind of taken a pass. Because normally, well, heck, before I was streaming Twitch at night and everything else, I just had sports radio on. So Arathu, so then you're playing some Blood Bowl. Arathu, you should check out the blog and see my Blood Bowl stadiums. I think I did 5 of them. I still have 3. I still have the Tundra Dome. I still look at this. Look at those smooth blends on that, huh? right? I mean, it has to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard work. It has to be super hard work. Nah, it doesn't really have to be hard work. Oh, no problem, Voiceful of Karma. I actually needed a couple more, so I might make a few more before we're done here. Where's my? There it is. All right, that's just a little bit of the. I almost called it phthalo blue again. It's a little bit of Prussian blue. A little bit of Prussian blue there. Oh yes, the Mimes of Moria. Geez, we haven't seen those guys in a little bit. We'll have to bring back the Mimes, the most feared creatures in all of Middle Earth. Forget ants and Balrogs and all that kind of stuff. Eagles, schmeagles, who cares? The Mimes of Moria, that's what you should fear. I think yeah, those horrible Aptalung Nosferatu, I think, yes. Man, I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks those are just brutal. Nosferatu, were you in here when I chucked one of those out the room into the kitchen, which I believe Kathy then found and put on the kitchen table? Yeah, that I just said this thing's horrible. It's useless, and I chucked it out the door. Ah, okay. So I threw a little bit of the blue on that brush there. Now, I believe, have we gotten to, say, like chapter 29 and 30? I know we've been kind of going around here. Let's say what 29 to, yes. What were we doing just this entire time? We caressed the brush. We didn't not, we caressed it. We didn't crush it. And see this? Look at this. That's not what you can do for your oils, but what they can do for you. And what better way to dry brush oils than with a filbert brush? What's the best kind of filbert brush in the world? A 60-cent flat brush that you just turned into a filbert by yourself. Are we layering oils here at all? We're not layering anything. We're just slapping colors on here. Just slapping the colors on there. And of course, well, with our basing, right? What do we use? Tree bark, twigs, all that kind of good stuff, right? Now, there are some more, and let's get to some more of our chapters here. Yeah, we have respected the umber. We'll respect it some more. And we'll leave it right here with think less, do more. I think anybody who has seen some of the recent videos on the violet and on that and this guy right here, right? That the theory hammer gets you nowhere. Just like theory hammer rolls no sixes. Yeah, theory hammer in oils get you absolutely nowhere. Yep, that's why it was on the floor. We tried one. It took all of 2 seconds to realize it was an unworthy piece of junk and it was just thrown out of the room. Maybe I'll be a bouquet and had the same. That's unbelievable. Nosferatu, there's only one person that I know of that has ever used the Optilungs and liked them. There's another person who I know who uses them and tolerates them. Everyone else just says, what is this stuff? It's horrible. Now I play humans in most Blood Bowl leagues, so when they get hurt I can chuckle and smile. Plan on giving my ogre a toupee, but never did it in time. I gave him a phone so he could tweet when he was. Oh, I make that really stupid roll. Yeah, that's now actually the bonehead. Sorry. Just imagine having a goblin team and both of your trolls go really stupid on a two or better or two or less. Yeah, that's a rough thing. That makes things very difficult. And here, let's just do a quick little Mimes of Moria maybe while we're at it. And once again, this is some of the most feared creatures in all of Middle Earth. And you'll find out why they are the most feared because, well, yeah, they're street mimes. They are French. They have cheese wheels. They have baguettes, they have top hats, they have wigs, they have chef's hats. And there's their coach Charles de Gaulle. Now, of course, these two thought they were the stars of the team. That's Francois and Pierre. They didn't do so much with the blocking and the tackling and all that kind of stuff. They preferred a really nice glass of Chablis, maybe every so often a pink Moscato. And there's some of your fans. There's Poirot, the judge. Oh, there's our Bombardier. That was the first team that I did any kind of conversions on, and learned a lot of lessons because at the time all we had were metal miniatures. Yeah, so most of those figures were just metal, and I had to figure out some way of chopping those up, like my pogo stick guy, even my parasol guy. The pogo stick guy might have been the toughest one. So you can see we've been able to add some nice kind of bluish shading to our rocks here. Why? Because we threw in a little bit of indigo. Look at there's tons of different colors on those rocks. Rocks aren't just great. I mean, there's purple over here. There's reddish brown over here. There's like a greenish blue over here. Who would have thought rocks could be made so easy to paint just with the oils and actually have some nice colors on them? I guess that's what I mean. It's one thing to just be painting rocks, but we're actually painting rocks and giving them some kind of a color. Oh yeah, it's interesting because it's come a long way to what we did here on our little sculpting stream a couple Thursdays ago when we did our cloaks and banners and all that kind of stuff and our helmets. I wish I knew this stuff way back when. And I think some folks got to see the chariot stream. Bryce, I don't know if you got to see the Tomb King chariots being turned into Candish chariots. But we sliced down the Tomb King chariot. We took two Rohan horses, made those guys have a nice little a yoke there. We put some saddles on those guys, or some a little device there to kind of connect the yoke to the horses. We painted or sculpted, sorry, some fur onto the chariot howdah itself. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, Ryder, I just to me, really the only truly watchable sport that was left was college football, and that's I fear that may be wiped out as well. So thank goodness for Twitch. I keep talking about how Twitch has been so great for other people because it really gives them something when everything else has been taken away, and then I realize, oh yeah, that's what was taken away from me. All right, so you can see we're starting to get some more lights into our Scully friend here. Yeah. I kind of find some different angles to approach this. There's Bizarro. Oh, yeah, let's see. I don't know if I can... you know what? Maybe I can get to him. I got to remove some sprues here, so just give me a second here. I think I can grab this one without just knocking everything over. All right, so... Yeah. So, Tomb King Chariot, which we sliced in half here. We also had to slice the yoke. We took about maybe 3/4 of an inch off of this thing because it would have been out to about here. It's got to fit on a 60 mil base. There's our Rohan horsies right there. And then you can see we put some fur on here. And obviously we've got our Candish Charioteer, and we even sculpted, well, I made some 60 mil bases for myself. So we based these things, we did some sculpting. I think I've got, so yeah, this is, that's what we're using. And our ultimate goal, as we scroll right down here, is to make a whole heaping bunch of these. I need about 10 of them. I think right now I have enough Tomb King chariots to make 6. So after that, I might have to find something else. And Now this is a mix, so those two in the back, those are the metal versions. The two in the front are mine. And of course we call that our Axles of Evil. If you want to check those out on the blog, they're on the blog. You can even watch, there were several battle reports with those. I think there's about 10 maybe not 10. I think there's at least 7 battle reports with my Axles of Evil. Easterling and Candish Alliance. Taking care of those hipsters from Gondor. Let's throw a couple more lights in here. We're going to also do some glazing things over the top of this. We'll pick out some other finer details here, but it has to be messy before it can be neat, right? Oh, backlog. We started this here. We did our usual pre-glaze, and now we're just taking advantage of that pre-glaze. And since I anticipated this thing not really taking tons and tons of time, we are also going to paint up our Mumakil base because, well, lots of smushed horsies on there. So I thought that could be very fun. And now I'm also been showing folks, I did get a chance to prime. This was the tutorial that I just uploaded to the Patreon page. So this is the mirror pool diorama. Mirror pool goes here, Galadriel there. I think Celeborn stands right about there. Hey Valfera, how are you doing? I think we're all caught up there. So backlog battles in Valfera. I hope that this. Oh, I can say it. I can say my usual Monday thing. I hope this Monday didn't have too much Monday for you. See, sometimes I get to say that. All right, this is a little bit more of a pinkish Terra Rosa right here, and we'll just let all that work its way in here. But all the while, it's picking up that pre-glaze, so I have to go back over here. Yeah, we're trying to. I guess we're gonna have to do a worldwide search for thread for Armored Wolf so that he can continue with his dice bags. So everybody should order more dice bags so that he has to wander the entire planet to find the thread to make those dice bags. And yet we got Kathy here as we add some greens. I'm not going to get the greens up in here. I'm going to stay away from that because I want these tree elements here to have a little bit more difference to them. But I mean, look at all this color that's happening here. You could sit there and just kind of do all that by hand. Not quite sure you'd want to do that. Or you could just kind of let the oils take over and let them do it for you, like we're doing here. We did make ourselves another homemade filbert brush. We did that. We'll probably make a couple more. Let's see. I've definitely seen those. Of course, people. As soon as people showed me pictures of Treebeard, I kind of forgot about all of the Slanishi type stuff, and I went, "There's Treebeard," and it's plastic, and it actually does look like Treebeard. So I may or may not have been distracted by the Treebeard stuff. And I'm going to take me a little bit of my cadmium yellow, mix that with our quinacridone golden brown. And this will be a little bit more of an orangey red, not a radish, but an orangey red that we are going to use up here on our antlers. We've been doing a lot of stuff down here. Let's get up into these antlers here. Let's do that. Oh, who is it called? Rocket Pig Games. Okay, thanks, Wazaro. Thank you so much. I thought this was from Asgard because it basically came with about 100 other Asgard figures. And it looked different. It looked a little bit different. So, okay, so Rocket Pig Games. I'll try to remember that. Thanks a lot for that. Now, is this part of a whole faction like a typical Patreon, or is theirs structured a little bit different? Because it seems like most of the time the Patreon thing is okay. You get this. You can get the entire faction, which has one big guy, maybe some kind of mounted critter or whatever. What's it called again? Rocket Pig Games. Okay, and that's what he called it. The person that I was painting this, that's what he called that thing, and he sent me a picture. Let's see if I can find that picture here. Of course, we'll have a scroll up here. You won't really be able to see with all the reflections, but that was the picture that he sent me there. So Rocket Pig Games, and it is called a Leshun. But with them, all the Patreon members vote on what minis they want made. Oh my goodness. Oh, I feel sorry for that sculptor. But hopefully it works for them. Here, let's get a little bit more of our green in here. So what's it called? Rocket Pig Games. All right. I'm going to have to repeat that about 1,000 times so that 2 minutes from now, when someone asks, I can conveniently not remember. Because that's what's going to happen. All right, here's some of our white. Ooh, asphaltum. White asphaltum. Scrubbing that, make sure that some of it comes out. Let's get his feet here. And I don't want to just add nothing but lights here. We'll have to do some. We will do some glazing back in here too. So Rocket Pig Games. That's interesting. I don't remember him getting. I don't know. Maybe he has gotten other things from Rocket Pig Games. I just don't realize it. Because these things were from Asgard. I know just from that shield. There were enough similarities in this thing to other Asgard things. I'm like, yeah, this thing has to be Asgard. So this one and the other Valkyrie were that we painted. What was this? Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, I don't know, whatever day today is. And whenever the last time we painted, I don't even know. I've already forgotten. Already forgotten when the last time I even did a session. That needs some green in there too.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Thank you so much, Little Apple Blossom, for the follow. That's appreciated. Gandalf appreciates that too. We'll sneak a little bit of our. This is our phthalo green here. So, how's about we sneak some of that out here too onto these parts that are supposed to be wood, because wood does have an awful lot of green in it. That's gray. It's less brown than it is anything else. Probably that's like the least. If you were to just look at wood and stuff, and somehow scan it or whatever and say, okay, tell me what colors are on this piece of wood, probably the least color that you would see would be brown. Not kidding. Oh wait, look what I can use light green to highlight purple. Yeah, I can do that. Especially with the oils, because it makes it easy. Okay, now do they have quite as many sculpts maybe as say something like an Artisan Guild, where every month quite literally a whole new faction comes out? It's almost as if, Games Workshop releasing a new Blood Bowl team every month or something, or like 2 Warcry warbands every month pretty much, or a Warcry warband with big guys, I suppose. Maybe we'll just go that way. All right, we're going to respect the Umber again. We'll respect the Umber. We're going to go back down in here. And we'll just pull some of that dark further up on the antlers here. Let's go. And this is not very watery or anything like that. It's not been liquefied in any way. It's just pretty much straight up. Look at this. That's what the Umber does. Umber is weird. Remember how I just kind of, well, sort of forgot about it mostly because the container ran out, but I really only thought of it as an initial glaze type of color, and that's it. Boy, hasn't that changed. Hey, we got DiMarino in the house. Oh yeah, sure, Wazaro, go ahead. That way people can get a peek at what they've got. Not so DiMarino. Yeah, I saw the. Oh, speaking of filberts, we just made another. Here's another homemade filbert right here. So you can never have enough filberts, right? Huh? Can never have enough filberts. I think what we need more of is some indigo and our Wendigo. Although this is a Leshun, right? I think that's what this is called, a Leshun. So I just hit that darker area with a little bit of the indigo again on the Wendigo, all aka Leshun. Eh? Now these things start to stand out a bit more than they did before, and we can go darker than that. Here, where's the there we go. I think this is our microfilbert, right? Yeah, check this out. Here, we can go darker. We're going to take indigo. We'll mix that with Van Dyke Brown. That's going to make it dark. And as we do this, ooh, look at that. Microfilbert. Yeah. Microfilbert for even more darks here. Because as dark as everything looks here already, we can get a little bit darker. This is what I mean about no layers. We're working back and forth. And look, we're adding darks here, but it's not a glaze. Not a glaze at all. This has to be one way or the other. It's either got to be lighter or darker. I am going to do this. I took a little phthalo green, mixed it with the ivory black, and that's it. That's what we needed to do right here. Because if that's going to be bone or tree, whatever, one of these had to be lighter than the other one, or darker than the other one. So we had already gone to, I think we stopped at chapter 30 there of the Book of Wappel. No, we were on, as we scroll down there a little bit more, I think we had gotten to 35. Think less, do more. Diorama bases. Wait a minute. I have a diorama to show you here for the folks that are new. And certainly, how messy did this thing look? And all of a sudden now, in what, like an hour, it looks like almost a painted miniature. And you get more miniatures painted when you forget about the whole perfect thing. It's never going to be perfect. If you did a perfect miniature, you should never paint another miniature again, because you can't get better than perfect. So there will be no perfect minis. So just kind of cast that notion aside. And this kind of thing goes into our think less, do more. Practice. Theory doesn't get you very far. Practice goes a long way. Speaking of diorama bases, diorama time. Yeah, this is our mirror pool diorama for Galadriel, right? And we did this. This is the latest Patreon video. I just primed it right before we started here. This one's already been a lot of fun. A lot of epoxy sculpt here. All of the tree roots and stuff, all epoxy sculpt. Let's see. Arathu said he reminded him of some coffee. Well, Caribou coffee, right? Isn't that a brand of coffee or something like that? Here, why don't we throw in some more? Look at this. Look what we just did right here. That's what my microfilbert right there. Oh, I reminded you of you before coffee. Yeah, that's actually that's me 24 hours a day. Now, speaking of some dark, I think we could use some here. I'll go back in and reestablish a couple of lights, but This over here also got a little bit yeah, plain. Grabbing a little bit of my green here. And we're almost doing the opposite. Where before we were kind of doing a dry brush motion with the light colors going from top down. Now we're taking the darker colors and sort of doing the same motion in reverse from the bottom up. So Rocket Pig, Rocket Pig. I will try to remember that. I'll forget. So someone's gonna have to remind me again, because half an hour from now somebody's gonna ask, and I'll be. I think it was some kind of a pig. Oh, it was Magos the Magical Pig. That's what it was. We'll get some a little bit of indigo in here to really darken that up nice. I would like to darken the ends of these horns. And again, the asphaltum color is really nifty. We used it on, oh, is this our Clydesdale here? Yeah, yeah. We used it on this guy, and it is a really interesting dark brown. A very interesting dark brown. Let's see, the pose 2, you see the coffee, and he knows it'll make his morning better, and he's reaching out a withered hand, looking for a little bit of the blend. I guess he's now. Does he want a mocha or a cappuccino? Now, speaking of Orchrist Gaming, look who just did the raid thing. That's Orchrist Gaming. How are you doing? And welcome in, Raiders. So, Orchrist, I'm glad that you were able to find all that stuff. I'm really glad that you were able to find all that, because I know sometimes it can be a little difficult, a little tricky locating things. So thanks again for the raid, and yeah, I'm really glad that you found that stuff. Here, obviously we're doing our oil thing, and we have, what would you say, half an hour ago we finished with the pre-glaze. Now we're really getting in here with some of our, well, we made some homemade filbert brushes. There's another brand new homemade filbert brush. Let's see, the ice cream is mine. Yes, boy. Oh, no, I did get some yesterday, so I managed to remember to get some of that yesterday. So here, we also could probably use a little bit. Oh, look at that. It's like 1 or 2 brush strokes in there. It's insane how easy this is. So welcome in, Raiders. Now, this is one of a couple of things we're going to be painting tonight, because after we're done with that, we are going to get to some smushed Rohan right here. Some flat Rohan guys, because they've been kind of stomped on by a pachyderm, or maybe 2. And folks, definitely give Orchrist a follow, because, well, I mean, we should be supporting each other, of course. So we went in here with our darker glazes, then we wiped away the paint with our little custom sliced up makeup sponges there. And have an ice cream there, yes. Arathu, oh gosh, I've been meaning to ask you this forever. Have you ever watched the tabletop battle guys? You know, Svein, Anders, and Damon. And I know they've added a few other people to the crew, but I've been meaning to ask you if you've ever watched those guys at all. Because they were literally the guys that taught me how to play bolt action. In all seriousness, that's where I learned how to play bolt action, was watching Svein, Damon, and Anders in Svein's basement, no less, with that nasty handheld camera that they started with. So now look at this. We can get to smaller brushes too. We don't have to use everything with a filbert. Filbert sure as heck makes all those other stages go a lot faster, though, doesn't it? Let's see. The what is it, of the tabletop battle guys. So they're tabletop well now tabletopbattle.com now I think. But they were the ones that gave me the idea to start the Patreon page and everything else. Just seeing those three guys in the dark basement making videos for YouTube. That's why I started doing bolt action battle reports myself. Which hopefully we'll be doing those again. But it's going to start off with some Lord of the Rings first. Let's see. Death by Chocolate. I mean, old fashioned vanilla she gets in mine, but I'm not allowed in hers. That Death by Chocolate. That sounds good. That's a good start. You get one of those. You put extra magic shell on there, maybe some chocolate chips, some chocolate sprinkles. Then maybe some whipped cream on top of that, followed by some more magic shell. And that's almost ready to eat. That is almost ready to eat. We'll get this one darker too. Kind of sticking with the mostly umber there. Now this is going to be, how do we make sap green? Actually, there's a few ways you could take umber, mix it with your phthalo green. So we got umber and phthalo green mixing together here now. This is going to be a little bit more glazy here, I think. I think this is going to be a little bit more of a glaze. It can even be more glaze. I'm going to get a little bit more of my thinner here. Aha, there we go. Now it starts moving around. Much better. I know some of them, but they have a friend gang in Oslo. It's called STF. Oh, gee whiz. I don't know if I've heard of the STF guys. The only other games I know that they've done is, oh gosh, they were doing some of the Star Wars stuff. I'm doing some glazes on this here. And this is not like a traditional glaze with your acrylic paints. All I can do is kind of just drop the paint in there. I can't brush it on. I have to because oil paints have tremendous capillary action. Tremendous capillary action. I'm actually going to see if I can sneak in one level closer let's just sneak in one little level closer here. Just going to make sure now that I moved in closer, I want to make sure that your focus is still there. Let's see. If I order some phthalos, do you prefer Windsor or Newton? Nosferatu, I think the only phthalos that I have used so far would be either the Windsor Newton or Williamsburg, actually. Now the Gamlin the Gamlin Brown, that Van Dyke Brown. Apparently that is different from the Windsor Newton version. Most people tend to like the Windsor Newton version better, or the Gamlin version better, sorry, than the Windsor Newton. But I've been using the Windsor Newton Phthalo Blue, Phthalo Green, and they seem to be doing just fine. They seem to be doing really well. Hey, Zen for One, how are you doing? Outsider Miniatures. From first glance, I thought this was the... Oh, actually, I do have that Outsider Miniatures. I just have not had a chance to assemble that yet to get it painted. So at some point, you'll see it here. I do have one of those. We didn't know what the heck it was. Now, apparently, one of the... what's the new dragon that they got going? One of those was supposed to be sent here, but I don't have one here. So I think just what's happened is it's been a wee bit busy because they're doing all the judgment stuff. Look at that little glaze gets down in there, darkens that up real nice. But you gotta let it do its own capillary action thing. So Zen for One, I hope it's been a not too crazy of a Monday for you. because sometimes Mondays are just, well, seem to get crazy. See, we got separation here now. A little bit easier to separate some of these areas. And we're just using nothing special, right? Nothing special. All it is our quadruple zero. Oh gosh, I gotta get more of these things. Yep, better get a whole bunch more of these guys. Hey, we got avocado kids in the house. Avocado kids. So folks, be sure to give avocado kids the follow, because if you like terrain, well, avocado kids is all about the terrain. More terrain, more better. So Arathu, actually, could you shoot me that link on Instagram maybe, or something like that? That would be super helpful. Actually, I was just the other day while I was doing some screens for other stuff. I actually tried to create another a Lord of the Rings battle report screen, some overlays. That's the word I'm looking for. Overlays. Speaking of overlays, I'm just overlaying a nice little glaze on top of this right here. The Necromancer Dragon, they had some issues with material deliveries or something, I think. Yeah, Outsider Miniatures, because they said, well, we sent you one. And I said, no. We'd know. We'd know. Because I said, your last box had these in it, right? And they said, well, yeah. And I said, well, there wasn't no dragon in there. Those other things, yes, they were. No dragon in that box. Because I would have noticed that. I think he would have been hard to miss, because what is he, 10 inches tall or something? Look at this. See, we're starting to get some nifty little shading right in there. So Avocado Kids, apparently this is from Rocket Pig Games, or Rocket Pig whatever, because one of our kind chatters has just said, oh, I'm part of their Patreon. It's this. So it is not from Asgard Rising. It is from Rocket Pig. Just throwing in some darks here now, like you do. Rocket Pigs game. Okay, so avocado on toast. You know, I've never tried that. I love avocados, but I have not had it on toast. I might have to try that. This is a culinary stream, of course. Yes, this is about oil painting and miniatures and everything else, but apparently Kathy and we are also the culinary stream. Look at that. See, I didn't want to make that much lighter, right? Make it dark. When in doubt, make it darker. Because it now, by virtue of maybe saving those brightest highlights, and I can go way brighter than this. I have not yet begun to highlight. That's written on a statue in Washington, D.C. Here, look at how much lighter. And this is still not the lightest color that I have. I can still go lighter than this. Yes, I can. And oh, look at how the paint sticks here. Yes, paint sticking. Why? Because there's not a lot of it there. Kathy's making a cranberry sauce. Is there Miss Half Damage in the house? Hey, Miss Half Damage. How are you doing? Oh, I saw your latest thing that was looking fabulous. Looking fabulous. So look at this. See how that just pops out right there? And then we'll get the bottom part of that socket. And we're going to stipple too. That's the other thing that we've learned, right, in the last week or so. That for whatever reason, if you stipple, it sticks. Don't say that 10 times fast. That could go horribly wrong. Yeah, boy, we haven't actually had cranberry sauce in a long time. We used to make that just all the time. Not even as a special Thanksgiving thing, just as an all the time kind of thing, because cranberry sauce. Yeah, let's get ourselves a little more light on the edge of this socket right here. So this, what is it again? Oh, thanks, Avocado Kids. Broken Pigs Games, right? Sorry, I'm just going to keep forgetting that until I finally remember. Now, this can be also lighter, but I want to add some yellow into that. All right, so here's some, oh look, some yellow, some red, just to give me a little different color in here. It seems like that is some kind of tree fungus there, some kind of, oh gosh. Well, that's right. I got that. I sculpted a bunch of these shelf fungi. That's what I called it. So now a little bit of color in there, make it a little more spicy. That needs more green. That needs a whole lot more shadow in it. So we'll just grab one of our poor man's sable brushes and, well, let's have at it again with some dark. I know it's going to be a little tough for you to see, but this is very much of a glaze. And you can see I'm just kind of touching the brush there and see how it just kind of, it just advances all on its own. Does it all by itself. Rocket Pig Games. Not bro, Rocket Pig Games. Okay, sorry. I'm just going to, I've never heard of it before, so it's going to take quite a number of repetitions for that to just stay in my very messed up brain. Outside of Miniatures, trying to paint a bigger model with one side almost completely in shadow. Do I highlight the blue? Let's see, wait a minute. So second is I paint half the miniature completely in shades of blue. It can be just, well, here, when you think about this, it's, that's just lit in different shades of blue. There you go. There's a bunch of different shades of blue here. This is a bunch of different shades of warm color. As long as there's just difference in each of those shades, kind of got the same thing here. There's actually some greens in here in the wings. There's some greens. There's some blues that's more purple. There's some blues that are almost more of a turquoise. Just make sure you have a little change in color, temperature, and all that sort of stuff. That should help too. Here's some more of our darker green. We will be going back in here with some lighter greens too, but let's just establish all the darks here. More darks, more better. Oh, I think we're all caught up on the chat. Here is our micro filbert brush. I don't know if I've ever heard that term, so I think I can copyright micro filbert. I don't know, I think I should be able to. I think I should be able to copyright that. Now, let's see what happens when we really pop in some brighter greens here. Oh, yeah. That's going to make a difference. That's really going to make a difference. But you notice we didn't start out with that. We kind of set this up first. We had to set it up to start with. Let's put a little bit more of this here. And we won't do that same brighter green everywhere. We'll vary that too. We can make it warmer. This should make it a little bit warmer and maybe a little bit lighter too, I suppose. So that will make it a little bit warmer. And down here we've got, well, actually this is a case where some of the shadows are cooler. We're putting a warmer green over the top of some of our cooler shadows. Because you're getting a twofer. You're getting not just light versus dark. Now you're getting warm versus cool. You're getting two kinds of contrast all in one. And I just, hopefully, as I keep repeating that over and over and over again, people start to think that. They start to think in terms of, okay, yeah, I made it darker. Well, so what? How's about a color temperature shift? How's about a color shift, period? How's about using some dark green to shade your red cloak in those deepest recesses? You want to have recesses that go way back into the recess? You take a bright red cloak and you shade it with some dark green. Those recesses, you will get plenty of distance. You don't believe me? Give it a try. So we don't want to do a whole bunch of the warm green. Let's switch gears here. Because look what's sitting right over here. We got ourselves some phthalo green, and that is going to make a whole bunch cooler green right here. And we're even going to use that right next to our warm green. Cooler green right next to the warm green. And then, oh wait, look what just happened here. We threw a little bit of that over there. Now we're just going to take our microfilbert that still actually has paint in it. And we'll just drag this around. Look at that. Separation now. Not just value, also color, also temperature. There are many, many, many types of contrast besides just value contrast. So why don't we just illustrate that? Boom. There you go. Color's gone. Yet there's some shading. Now here you can see we don't have our lights in here yet, so it's a little bit flatter there. Here we've worked in some more of our lights, and then you can see the skull. See where we're starting to work in more of our lights there. But as the color comes back, you can see there is temperature difference here. This is a much cooler green than what we were just applying before when we had the yellow and the cadmium and all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much, Trash. Trash coming in with the cheer. And we're going to salute you with this because we could really use some of this right now. Thank you so much. So, Trash, I hope that the week is off to a decent start for you. Or a great start. I think mostly these days all you can hope for is decent. But hopefully it's been actually okay, if not good. We're just, this is not from Asgard like I thought it was. This is from a whole different entity right here. So I do apologize for that last stream. What was that, Saturday or whatever? When we kept saying this was from Asgard. But now we know. Now we know where it comes from. Get me some water too here, if you don't mind. We're just kind of wandering around here with some of our lighter greens before we come back in with some other bone colors there, some lighter colors on the, well, I'm guessing that's fabric. That could be some skin of something or other there. I don't know. I'm going to actually take this warmer green over here. Work some of this onto his back over here. Send that down just a touch. Working on packing still and prepping the holiday dinner. Actually, Kathy is she's kind of doing stage 1 right now. She is making cranberry sauce. So instead of having to do everything on one day, it's being spread out from now till Saturday. Who knows, maybe even Sunday. But yeah, it's being, all that stuff is being spread out. Now I've got this right here. This is a bit more of a, is that kind of an orangey red color there. For that, once again, another case of they're about the same value. It looks like it's lighter. It's really not. It's actually the same value of lightness. However, one's an orangey red and the other one is kind of a cool green. So some automatic separation there. Just kind of by virtue of that, it's enough to make that separate. I'm actually going to play around here. This is actually some of the violet color right here, Egyptian violet mixed with some of our off-white yellow. See more separation here. Let's see what we can do here on some of that fabric right across the edge. And since the paint is such a light application, we can put as much of that on there as almost as much. But if you pile that paint on from the start, I can't emphasize enough, and I've had this twice today, 5 times yesterday, 17 times the day before. There's just a lot of folks that I can't get the paint to stick, can't get the paint to stick. That's because you're putting it on with a trowel, you're putting it on with a dumpster. I mean, it's like you are literally offloading an entire dumpster onto that miniature of paint. You need less. You need way less paint. Not more. See, Backlog Battle's doing the hoagie thing for Thanksgiving. Actually, what was the Texas Twinkies? I wonder if Dave is going to be doing the Texas Twinkie thing. It's basically meat wrapped in meat, which is also wrapped in some more meat, and then finally wrapped in some meat. Which, I mean, all of those things are excellent together. I still am on that quest for a 10 meat sandwich. Nessie knows he likes them Twinkies. Yeah, Texas Twinkie. I was shown some pictures of those things. They're most certainly like a warm, fuzzy blanket around your arteries. Here, let's keep going with some of our cadmium yellow mixed with our off-white yellow. Because it not only does it warm some things up, but it's also very opaque. But we're not going to do each and every one of these. We are going to pick and choose here. Some of these. Not all, just some. Yeah, because if I do every single one, then it's just gonna, it's gonna look like a xylophone or something. Maybe that's what these are. Maybe he's carrying bone xylophones. Actually, it's more like twigs. I'm not quite sure that a wood xylophone works as well. I'm just assuming that a xylophone probably should be metal, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I just don't know anything about the acoustic properties. It makes Turducken look like a rookie level. It really does. I don't know. It's like a hot dog wrapped in bacon, wrapped in ham, wrapped in salami, wrapped in something else, and then wrapped in something else. It's many meats wrapped together. They look like they're. It kind of looks like a burrito, but with no burrito around it. It's just all the inner things on the outside. It's like a flayed meat sandwich. Here, let's get some more of our lights across these guys too. So see how those now really start to stand out from, well, the clothes. Not quite sure why the walking tree dude really felt the need to have clothes. I guess he just wanted to be very modest. As one modest tree ant dude thing. He's getting ready to jam on his xylophone with his coffee. That's it. And once he gets his coffee, he's going to start jamming on his xylophone. We'll get just a couple of highlights on the end of these guys. And then we got to figure out something here with those little ropes that are holding those together. I'm going to go this away here. That is our quinacridone golden brown. That's got, touching that, is that going to be too light? We might knock that down a little bit. Yeah, more red. It's more reddish, not a radish. Using the femur of his enemies after he eats that. Well, that's very ecologically sound, of course. I mean, we want to recycle, right? You got to use everything from nature that nature gives you. As we welcome in Tutti Frutti, how are you doing? Yeah, this guy is pretty fun actually. I just he is way more fun. I thought he might be kind of neat, but he's really been very fun. So enjoying the heck out of this guy. He's gonna jam with his mates and with some jazz, but first coffee, and then yeah, get that coffee first, and then jam some jazz all night long. So we throw a little bit of our red into here. We're gonna throw some of that same color over here now. So now we're starting to bring out some of the really nifty textures that are in here. Yeah, that's actually phthalo green for a dark, and then sort of a warm pinkish red here for your light. Oh, I'm glad you're doing there. Oh, and Sky King. So Sky King, this is from Rocket Pigs Games. Uh, it's called a Leshun or a Leshen, Leshun, and it is Rocket Pigs Games. They're a digital sculpting outfit. And look at me, sounding like I actually know where the heck this thing comes from, which I didn't until one of our wonderful chatters said, "Oh yeah, I'm part of their Patreon thing. That's what it is." So now we're starting to add a little bit of our lights here again into this fabric right here, because he is a very modest tree man. He does not like to go around, I guess, exposing himself to all of the other little forest creatures. So he wears his big old pair of pants right here, his trousers, his bloomers. I'm gonna get some more of this. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna actually take some of this. It's the cadmium green that's mixed with that red. And we'll get some of that down here on his, well, I call them feet. They're more like roots. Actually, it's kind of funny to be painting this after doing this. So this was the latest tutorial right here. So as I'm doing all of this, I'm like, where have I seen this before? Oh yeah, I don't know, 3 hours that I was filming and screwing around with that thing last night. But also, after this guy is done, we are going to get to our pachyderm base right here. Oh, yeah, see it? See on the left-hand side here? Let's yep, that's how it's oriented there too. So we'll get to that base in a little bit. Yeah, that's certain little circulatory phenomena that happens sometimes in the mornings. As we'll get some more. That's actually part of his covering. We'll just call it that. Not quite sure exactly what the heck to call it. We'll just call it a covering. As we add some more of that same interesting little red, and that is that quinacridone. But I never thought I'd find quite so many uses for that. See here, actually almost using it like as a mid-tone or whatever right there. Little bit of that. Oh, look at that. Nice little contrast. Oh, the green that's right there. I do think, yeah, I think so. Nice little contrast to all that. Get just a hint of that over here. So that's kind of an interesting color. Again, that Williamsburg set, I never expected to like this many colors from just that one set. Never really expected that at all. I got it because it was on sale, hoping that I might like two colors. If I was lucky, maybe three, and then the rest would just be whatevers. But they have proven to be quite nice. And now we're doing that to do a little bit of just some blending. That's all. Just a little bit of blending. Should we do some? Yeah, I'll do some lighter things on his antlers here. Yeah, I guess well, he's always really afraid of being pruned, I would guess. He's probably not super fond of garden shears. Let's get some of this kind of almost like a greenish white here, and we'll put some of that into his antlers. Which I shouldn't, well, antlers, horns, whatever, but now not everywhere. See, that's going to be left dark because then that's going to give us these almost like three little levels right here. Hey, Sakaya, how are you doing? And Astrovox, nice to see you again. Hopefully Monday was okay and survivable. Sometimes that's all a Monday can be. It's just survivable. We will liking the look at that. So like a light purple there after a light green there with sort of a burnt umber down in the shadow area in between the two. And what looks like a light there, well, that's barely a middle tone. That's pretty much like a value 4 or something because if we get in here with something that's actually light, or I don't know, like that, yeah, that'll tell you straight away we're really effective at creating some darks in there. And that's what that pre-glaze is going to do for you. It's going to get those darks in place so that you don't have to later on, and you can just kind of build from there. But it's really easy to find your way to the middle tone with taking your big old, well, some kind of filbert brush, whatever, and you go into your lighter colors, right? And then next thing you know, you're cranking out some mid-tone. And we still, like I said, we haven't used any kind of anything that was remotely straight up titanium white whatsoever. And at this point, might actually do a little bit of stippling in some places. That remember that's that new method that we discovered for kind of, well, it's not entirely new. It was really more using it for freehand. That was kind of where the newness came from. Nessie's got phthalo green. Oh yeah. So Nessie, are you gonna do the phthalo green mixed with the umber to create your sort of dark angels green, or are you gonna go the phthalo green with a little touch of maybe some Van Dyke brown to make it even cooler? I guess it kind of depends what sort of bases they're standing on too. That always has a lot to do with it. Yeah. Bringing out that nice little skelly right there. Oh, thanks, Bizarro. It's just so darn easy, right? It's just incredibly easy what the oils can do, and they're crazy too. Some of these things. They're the ones that yeah, I've done those type of color transitions in acrylic, but oof, they were laborious to create. Whereas here, I don't want to say it happens by itself, but in comparison to the acrylics, it pretty much does happen by itself. I pretty much just go brush, brush, brush. Oh, wait, look at all that. With the acrylics, you have to hammer away it's like one person's trying to carve marble with a tweezers, and the other person has a jackhammer. And the person with the jackhammer is going to get that marble shaped up real quick. Speaking of adding some really intense lights, we can do that here. Not just pick out a couple edges there, right? Now Nosferatu has to crash for work. Well, thanks Nosferatu, and thanks again for the sub and the bits there. That is very much appreciated. And you have a good night. And I will be Thursday would probably be the next one, and it's going to be. I do believe it's going to be converting stuff again. So I think we'll be sculpting again some more. And I really want to be sculpting some of my Easterling special characters. Ironically, that was the thing I wanted to do before sculpting the Rohan stuff. Let's see, does the oil paint continue to spread if you let it sit? Um, let's see. Oh, you mean if you do, like, say one of your kind of a glazy type of a thing? So if you're doing like one of your panel line washes, it sometimes actually will kind of keep going, depending on how liquid you got it, actually, I think. Yeah, mishap damage, it'll be more like the Thursday night stream because Kathy is doing her thing during the day. She is going to be doing some dramatic readings, I think, from Cthulhu books or what's his name? Lovecraft. Yeah, she's going to do some dramatic Lovecraft readings. As I add some more lights here. And then for me, it would probably be that late Thursday time slot. So I might be starting at 10:30, 11 o'clock my time, which obviously in Europe is probably going to be around midnight-ish, something like that. Somewhere between 1 and 11, depending where you are in Europe. Look at this. Look at all that. It's just so much fun here. Nah, Kathy is always dramatic. Well, she's looking forward to it. She was even practicing. She was practicing on a quick little. I keep wanting to say Edgar Allan Poe, but she practiced on a little bit of Lovecraft. I think that was like Friday or something. Might have been Friday. Yeah, it was Friday because I had to say, look, I can't be your test subject. I have to go stream. So that's what she'll be doing Thursday. Plus her, I think she'll also be reading Alice's Restaurant too. Let's get some of our yellow into this. Yep, story time with Kathy. Hopefully, what I can do. Let's see, when is she gonna be doing? Oh, by Thursday, yeah. Let's just say that behind her should be more of a holiday setting. She doesn't really know this yet, so you can't tell her. It's only just like, the 78 of us or so right here. But yeah, there might be a little surprise backdrop to kind of make it a nice holiday theme. And of course, she will have Squishulu with her. So I think you can see some of the greens that are in here. Yep, Nixel knows what's coming there. Sky King, that's going to be 3 o'clock Central here in the U.S. 3 o'clock Central. And like for me, like I said, it's probably going to be more like a 10:30. I think 11 o'clock is a more realistic starting time. I would like to start at 10:30, but it might be more like 11. So I'm going to, again, do some more lights right here. Look at that nice long brush stroke. And that's going right over wet oil paint. That is right over wet oil paint there. See that nice long easy brush strokes? You can see that it's picking up paint that's already there. It still is picking up the paint there. Wizarro, I have at least 3 of those on the Patreon page. There's really no special information because it's all basically the same thing every single time. Now, of course, I don't have one of my blisters I do. Yes, I do. It's just squeezing the paint into, well, I just use dead blister packs. Some people use some other little small containers. But I just throw the oils in there and I keep mixing my high quality thinner in until they get to be the consistency of just regular acrylic miniature paint. Once they do, then I throw a little bit of agitator in there. I just use pieces of sprue, metal sprue, because I've got 1,000 chunks of metal sprue here as I get some lights here on the feet. Some people use, oh, what the heck are they? The glass agitators, because you can't always rely on the metal ones actually being stainless steel. Sometimes they're more like shameless schmeal instead of stainless steel. So that's less handy. But it's really more, the reason I did those videos was not so much showing people how to mix them. It was a discussion about the color itself. So when I'm mixing the phthalo green, it's a, oh my gosh, look at how little thinner it takes to make this miniature paint consistency. If I'm doing something else like a cadmium, it's wow, I bet you this is going to take a ton of thinner in comparison. And then it does. It's more of a like a discussion on different paints and comparing them to each other. Some that are very translucent, some that aren't. Start with umber as the first stage and use the phthalo green on top. Oh, Nessie, I would start with my start for Dark Angels, and I am going to be doing, remember, we're going to be doing each of the chapters with oils. I would actually start with indigo mixed with actually a little bit of Van Dyke Brown, or indigo and umber together. That should be your first pre-glaze. That should be your start with that, because that's what I would do. Because you know what kind of a nifty, kind of a super dark green you get when you mix the indigo and the umber together, because the umber's got enough yellow in it to turn the indigo green. Oh, you'll be making indigo green. There you go. Oh, no problem, Wizaro. Now, I try to, oh, there's the other thing also that I do for the Patreon page. Here we go. Let's grab some of these. I also do things like this. I think I've done 4 of these so far. Speaking of indigo, right there. But I'll take basically a group of about 7 colors, all from one sort of family, and then I'll mix them with the same 5. And this way, people get to see not just the differences between the colors, but how they interact with other colors. Well, Nessie, you gotta have plenty of indigo. Otherwise, you can't paint a Wendigo. Hey, Paint Miniatures, how you doing? Welcome in. Now we're going to get ourselves a little bit lighter up in here. Again, that is the umber mixed with some of our off-white yellow. And I'm trying to get some of that texture that's in there. There's a whole bunch of texture. It's not just flat. There's all these little kind of pock marks in here. So trying to get a lot of that little texture going. Now actually here I could use a little more light back in there. I think you can't really see too much of it, but trust me, it's there. That's about a little more of a lighter green and on the bluish side. Now, Nessie knows that I'm almost... Actually, what I'm going to do is maybe make sure that those are super dry, right? Just let them sit for a few months. I do have a scanner here. I was thinking of scanning those because I think that'll actually be more accurate photography-wise than actually taking a picture of them. And so many times, I have no idea why things are whatever, but there's always mold lines going through here. So basically what we do is we just file the hair texture off to get rid of the mold line, and then we brush the hair texture back on. That happens a lot with the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures because there's some heavy-duty mold lines on those sometimes. Jarrett's, obviously there's no wet palette with the oils. It's just literally a piece of parchment paper sitting on top of cardboard. Well, actually, it's glued to it. When I do use a wet palette, all it is that same parchment paper sitting on top of a chamois sponge, which is then sitting inside the top lid of a Chinese food container. Not kidding. Oh yeah, Jarrett's. There's definitely no wet palette here. It's yeah. Let me see if I can dig this out here. It is just a piece of cardboard like so. Piece of parchment paper. You take your glue stick and you attach it here. You can see some of the glue residue there. And when you're done with it, all you gotta do is just peel that right off, and it's just a piece of cardboard. It offers a tiny bit of absorbency. Let's see. Avocado kids, you'll have to actually remind me. I it I if I look back at our messages, I'll know in 2 seconds. But again, working on, well, let's put it this way: I'm lucky if I get 4 hours of sleep a day over the last couple of months. So my memory is not, it never was great. And I do believe I know I have an idea what you are talking about now, but the details, yes, unless it happened yesterday or an hour ago, pretty much wouldn't be able to remember much. So now those things, we're really starting to get a bunch of different colors and lights on all that stuff. Really liking that. Okay, what about, yep, I'm going to get a couple of lights right over there. Right here, and there, and they're going to be the same green. Why green? The color goes somewhere, has to go everywhere. That could use some, well, just anything. I mean, there's pretty much new color, and there's a little bit of our pre-glaze color in there, but that's about it. And I also, yeah, see, now we'll, that red-ish brown that we put on the tips of that, that's going to help separate there. Light versus dark. Do I maybe double down on some of that green? Oh, let's see. That could be too light. And it's really not a green. It's actually got more blue in it than green, but compared to everything else over here, it certainly looks like it is green. A couple of wispy things right there again to bring in some texture. Yeah, we've got all this yellow over here. Why not go berserk here and maybe bring in a little green right next to this? Yeah, that's good. Writer, the only everything on the Patreon page, with the exception of some of the general techniques.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my gun, John.
Thank you so much, Helic, Helictic, Helictic. Hopefully that wasn't too butchered. So yeah, Ryder, the let's welcome it, Leopard Pixie. Thank you so much for the raid. Yeah, all of the Army Painter and Dark Sword episodes, those never ever ever go public. Uh, no one ever sees
Hello,
those
little hobbits. Spark my gun, John.
except for Chris Lair, who has just followed. Thank you so much for the follow. So we're working on a really fun digital print right here. This is from, let's see, what is it? And I just forgot. something pig games, something pig games, RPG. But in any case, this is a nice, really nice digital print right here that we have been painting with oils here. Ah, Helectic. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the for the pronunciation guide, because I definitely could use those sometimes. Definitely could use those every so often. So we did our usual pre-glaze here. We obviously we wiped it off with our sponges, because again with oils, there's no mistakes, only makeup sponges. There's a whole bunch of them. Then we kind of took advantage of all that color that was laid down, and then we went over the top of it with our lights. Now we're going back in and doing all our little cleanup things. Rocket Pig Games, okay? No, no problem, Leopard Pixie. That's pretty much me every single time. I basically raid and just leave because I need to eat or do whatever thing. So I appreciate that though. And like in this case down here, the rocks, the original pre-glaze was actually a whole bunch of warm colors. We've gone over the top of this with more opaque, cooler colors. You can still see even in this area here some of these reddish tones. That's that pre-glaze. It's still showing through even after all this time. Even up here, a lot of that is literally just a pre-glaze wiped away with a sponge. It's still sitting there, hasn't been touched. And yes, definitely, folks, give Leopard Pixie that follow. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that 4 hours and 40 minutes ago, it had no paint on it. It just had primer. So it had this had as much color as this thing did 4 hours and 40 minutes ago. And I think we actually spent a first few minutes of this. Oh no, we didn't have to scrape away the whatchamacallit things like we did on the Artisan Guild. No, we didn't have to do that here. Now this, oh yeah, here's another case where we could use just a little something over here. Right, and I see there's just a pre-glaze there. So I'm going to take actually some of that's some asphaltum there. It's not really a glaze. That's actually more of almost a bit of a dry brush onto there. Almost a little bit of a dry brush. And oh, this is another area too. That's really just the initial pre-glaze. Yeah, all of that is just pre-glaze sitting there. Wow, we haven't actually touched any of that in hours. So let's throw some stuff in here. That's gonna actually take a little bit of green. It's like a cadmium green. And with the oils, you're not layering or anything like that. You're not layering. We are literally just throwing colors on here, mixing it. There's very little mixing that goes on the palette here. The only time we really mix anything is if we're taking maybe some lighter color, mixing with a dark. That's it. Most of the mixing happens over here. This is your true palette. The other thing, just like a color storage device. That's about it. That's about all it is. Now over here, I need to get more separation in this area. Now part of it is there was a little wonkiness, I think, with the printing that happened there. So I will take some of my phthalo green here. We'll mix it with a nice dark brown here. That is Van Dyke brown mixed with that phthalo green. And this is not going to be like a pin line wash. It's thin enough to make it flow. Just enough. Yep. And now I feel like I'm getting the separation that I need here. That works. Now, I'd be tempted to paint some greenish colors down here on my rocks, but there's going to actually be some flocking foliage there, so the green's going to be provided that way. Even up here, there might be a little bit of foliage attached to this, but with all of the painting going on there, I don't think there's going to be quite so much of it. Also, too, since this one was digitally printed, there's not quite the weird mold lines and gaps and other things that on a typical tree man figure that I would have to try and cover up. Because I just on some tree men, some Mears tree men figures. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's another way to gap fill on tree men is just throw a bunch of flock in there. It sure worked. I mean, it looked totally natural. It was gonna be there anyways. Darker green here. Color contrast, not just the value kind. Because that's not a super light value right there. Not a very light value, but it's next to basically dark green. So gives you a little extra, a different form of contrast. There's so many. Actually, to me, the oils makes it easier. Barbarian, cleric, and pirate. Oh yeah, I think. Oh yeah, they're. Let's see. Well, this one, right? That's one of them, right? And where's your pirate? That one. And our the. I'm not going to reach for the barbarian because that one is. I don't want to rip off any of the flock on that. So yeah, those are all set. Oh yeah, well it's the age-old thing of this right here. I have to basically turn on that bright of a light to be able to see things like right here. I can see nothing there. Paint what? Oh, there's some more over here. Wow, there's a whole bunch of gaps over here that I can see, but unfortunately, you can see what a negative effect that has on the picture there. And then, of course, there is the waiting for all of the effects to dry. So, yeah. Actually, the other thing too was, well, let's just say that sometimes shipping things here can be a little bit, or out of here can be disrupted sometimes. So I was kind of waiting for certain events to be done with because that sometimes around here causes disruptions. This needs, okay. Put in some darks there, and then we got to go back in with some light here. And it's got a little bit of that. See, that's like a mix of the purple and the blue. That's better. Yep, I thought so. Now, the other thing I was trying to do is, as always, trying to get pictures of those so that we can make our videos out of them for the YouTube channel there. There we go. Okay, so it's another. Now here again, this is for as sharp as some of this is. That's a little bit softer, and that sometimes happens with the digital sculpting there. Ah, there we are. So let that be lit. That, not going to put any more lights there because the way this is kind of folding over toes. I mean, are those really toes? Hard to tell. Speaking of which, we need some definition down here too. Oh yeah, actually those are ready to head out. I basically I let's put it this way, I shipped nothing for the entire first 2 weeks of this month just because in the summertime there was a whole week where pretty much the shipping things here was basically shut down. We were kind of all on pins and needles wondering if that was going to happen again in November. So yeah, that was why we were waiting for maybe a little bit. Let that pass. All right, there we go. See, and that was just again a little quick umber right there, and now we have what looks like two very different surfaces. We can make that even more different with the application of some indigo. You know, I'm actually a little bit of the bluish yellow, or the yellow color get into that. There we go. And finally, so much cleaner, much more separation right there. Do we need to do that over here? Yeah, we'll just do that over here too. Grabbing a little bit more of our lighter. I don't want this to be too light, but yeah, just kind of stipple some of this on there. Not so much because it won't stick or whatever, but there's a actually there's a little bit more going on with these rocks sometimes than your typical digitally sculpted rocks. So I guess yeah, that really does. Wow, look at that. There's much more going on here. I guess I'll be curious to see if their other sculpts have a similar type of attention to that sort of detail. Yeah, even here on these rocks. Most of the time, it looks like somebody just took a circle shape and pulled out a few odds and ends in it and said that's a rock. Much more of an actual rock texture, but once again, not much happening in that gap here. So I'm going to take some of this almost a yellowish brown, and I'm just going to throw this in here. And man, you can see how much dark color there is on the end of that brush. So that's that blind blending process once again at work. It works really well with the oils. You literally just shove your brush back there and you say, well, it's going to mix with something because the paint's not dry. Even if it was, you could still kind of do some of that. Oh, yeah, we'll just grab this over here. And this is facing up towards the sky slash light source, so that could get lighter. I try not to have this stuff be as light as what's going on up here, especially with somebody as tall as this dude. Oh, thanks, Blaz. Thank you so much. How are you doing tonight or this morning? I guess I should say. Oh, it is still 11:17 here. It is not morning yet here. It's getting there. We will do, I'm just gonna, for the heck of it, I'm gonna do a glaze here at the asphaltum, more so because I just want to see something. this is sort of a comparison to the umber test here. That's going to happen right here on this part of his foot. See, the asphaltum does. I just want to see if it kind of gives the same thing as the umber does. It's weird because it is not as translucent as the umber. But and this again is that was a glaze of a color that's already usually not very opaque to start with, and yet look at that. That's covering that area up, and it was mixing with the wet paint there too. Ah, Blaz, I'm glad that you're doing good. Hopefully the Monday was all right. I'm just actually having kind of excited to be able to. This is probably the most I don't want to call it realistic, but of the digitally sculpted prints that I've done so far, this one probably has the most realism to it. I mean, I love the Artisan Guild stuff, but obviously there's some stylization that happens there. Even on the Asgard stuff, there's some stylization that happens here. I mean, maybe not so much, but this was kind of nice. It's almost. I really get the sense that, but this reminds me more of like a Big Child Creatives type of a sculpt here. I think maybe that's it. And as much as I love all the other, I love my Artisan Guild and all that other stuff, but this is quite interesting here. And I'm actually really liking the asphaltum as a darker glaze here. So nice to get to this point where I can start to lock in on these more localized, smaller things like that, and doing these crazy little glazes like this. Yeah, like so. Okay. I might even, for the heck of it, I'm going to actually do one of these over that branch area there. Darken that down again. I am glad that I got the greenish color here, though, because I mean, it kind of goes from green to almost like a tan, and then up here to, well, just like a grayish green. But you do have to be careful. If you're going to do this sort of a glazing type thing like this on top of wet oils, you have to be aware that it's very easy to be taken away paint. And that's why all I do is I just touch the brush there and nothing else. That's it. Just touching that brush there. Same over here. Darks in here, because when I turned on my light very briefly, I saw, I should maybe get some more darks back there. But first I'm going to take this little opportunity here. A couple of lights that way. And now here, that's where it did get a little round. That's not exactly a crisp edge right there. Let's see if we can make that more of a crisp edge. Which means probably some indigo. Actually, I'll take the indigo and the asphaltum, although that tends to almost turn a little bit on the greenish side. Better edge. Because I could have this as dark as I wanted to, but unless that edge was more solid, it was just going to look a little smushy there on the detail side of things. And wow, I can actually get some dark back in there too. There I'm able to get some some color into that because it's probably been an hour or two since I last messed around in that area. So see, I'm not quite sure. Well, I'm looking at this. I still don't think that the asphaltum does what, say, not the phthalo, the umber did over there. I just don't think it really does quite the same thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to this Terra Rosa here real quick. Some Terra Rosa and do something just like that. Wow, that glaze was applied a while ago, but this is why sometimes here. Let's grab our just a blending brush. Sure, do this. Now Lady B is back. So Lady B, I hope that the chow was tasty. See the magic of the blending brush. Oh yeah, over here too. Magic of the blending brush. And it's not so much that we're physically blending a color like here. So I don't even know if it shows up on screen or not, but there's some brush strokes here. And you can see I'm kind of doing this little swirling motion here. A little bit of a swirling motion wipes away all those brush strokes right there. That really does sound seriously tasty. Wow. That really does. That seriously making me hungry right now. That's for sure. All right, another case right here. I can see just a couple of brush strokes. It's not like that's always just a couple of brush strokes. So I'm just gonna almost kind of stipple and twist there, and brush strokes are gone. That the blending was fine. There was just a couple of brush strokes in there, and you see those more obviously in these type of areas here. These open areas like that. Sometimes you just gotta go back in there. I mean, here's another one another area that's more open, so you're more inclined to see your brush strokes here. Not blending any paint colors. There's just nothing really to blend. We are just mitigating some brush strokes. Just like that. Yeah, my color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. So Terra Rosa here, here, some there. I'm just gonna, what the heck? What the heck? I'm gonna throw a little bit of Terra Rosa up here if I might. Nixel, I don't use the paper towel because that's going to leave, some, whatchamacallit behind, like some fibers behind, right? I used to, with the acrylics, I wiped paint off with my fingers all the time because the paint would just dry. But here, if I wipe paint off with my fingers and then I go to do some, it's just going to get all over the place. So that's why I use the sponges also, because especially these, so I can really form that sponge around the shape here and get into areas easier. It's also like my finger here, it would just wipe the paint away completely. This is more like a brush. It's definitely more like a brush. So when I was doing the acrylics, I would wipe away paint with my fingers. With the oils, not really going to do that because, again, it's not going to dry. So then I will have a colossal mess on my hands when I go to grab other things. Like, you know, let's say I go to grab a miniature or something like that. And now I've got that paint all over my fingers. That's not really going to be that won't be so super. There's another little tree root thing there that I'm going to use this kind of almost like a pinkish color here. That's just me cleaning the brush. This is all I'm doing right here. Because remember, I'm not putting the brush in any kind of liquid to clean it. Just like where's our brush like this here. That is how I'm going to get the paint out of it. I'm not going to be, you don't see me dipping these in any water or anything like that, right? Just literally taking the paint off this way with that brush. So yeah, the paper towel would not be, that would not be a good instrument for removing paint from the miniature. It is good for removing paint from the brushes. Well, looky here, we've got ourselves a mini grinder studio. How you doing? Folks, be sure to give Mini Grinder Studio a follow. And hopefully you had a good stream. Actually, hopefully Monday treated you well. Hopefully actually the weekend treated you well. Hopefully it treated you great. And so actually, what were you working on during your stream? Hopefully it was something really fun. I'm sure it was. This thing has been very fun, I have to say. Really been enjoying this way, even more than I thought I was going to. And of course, yeah, I will not be doing the obligatory thing of, oh, you got any pictures? Show us pictures of it. It's like, wait a second, I just got done. When in the last 20 seconds that I have time to take pictures and post them somewhere? That always gets, it's always quite the hilarious thing when that happens. Let's see, working on the dire turkey and ZBrush. Got to work on my green dragon display before that. Well, speaking of I don't know if this was sculpted in ZBrush. I'm sure it probably was. Unless maybe ZBrush is not quite as common as it was in the early days. But I'm glad that you were able to get some stuff done there. And of course the dire turkey for the Forza holidays. Actually, I'm going to have to sculpt a wee bit of a Santa hat here for Wappel so that he has that for December. Like Backlog Paddle says, getting paint on your fingers and spreading it to other minis gives new meaning to if a color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. I don't know about done, but it's on its way. Speaking of blending brush, where'd you go? There. Well, yeah, actually, we use that one as a blending brush too. But we're going to do that right here. And we're going to do that over here. And I'm looking. Yes, now those brush strokes are meant to be there. That's actually some texture we painted in. Now there's a little bit of a texture difference here, so I'm going to just knock down some of the height of those brush strokes. So again, we're not trying to blend colors in that classic sense. Now let's see, Mini Grinder Studio has been thinking really hard about trying out the oils. Yeah, the nice thing is that you can do it relatively cheap. You don't have to, what is it? You don't have to go all out and spend lots of cash on it. It should not be very expensive at all, especially if you're just getting that starter set right. Just some of the basic things. All right, so here's a little bit of our umber. I'll maybe throw a little bit more here. Oh, no, actually, I'm going to go with some asphaltum here. Doing a little bit of that stippling right there, because that's what's going to make that stick. Now, Mini Grinder Studio, I obviously I started getting the artist grade oils because these just didn't come in the starter sets. Things like the Terra Rosa, the Indigo, some of the colors that I really wanted, well, like Asphaltum and that sort of thing. Now, this Egyptian Violet, this came in a set from Williamsburg, but it's a much pricier set and it was a very small container. So, yeah, that's oh, Noble Heart, that was done by me. I just here's the evidence. If I could actually get to this stupid thing. There we go. So I just take the paint, I squeeze the tube into just a little blister pack like this. I basically start putting in some thinner until it gets to be the consistency of miniature paint. Then I put it in the dropper bottle with some kind of a agitator. Now I have tons of metal right here. As we look in Browntown Games, how are you doing? So yeah, you could use, well, glass beads tend to be a more reliable agitator because sometimes things that are claimed to be stainless steel are not necessarily quite so stainless. But I know that pewter, well, that's not going to stain or rust or anything like that. So, and I've got tons of it. I have tons of dead blister packs and tons of pewter here. So, and the bottles themselves, you can just get them off of Amazon. I would suggest smaller sizes of them. My preferred is actually half ounce. I ended up with the 1 ounce containers. I ordered half. I ended up with 1 ounce containers. I just said, okay, fine. All right, I think, yeah, see, that's a little bit more of a contrast right there. Because that was getting to be too much like the bone color. And that, as I look at this here, it's actually more of a tree branch that's going around there. So Browntown Games, I hope everything is going well. I hope that you had a decent weekend, if not a really good weekend. And hopefully your week is going all right. A little bit even more on the green. Well, it's not all that different than the green we put over here. It's kind of a grayish, subdued green. Let's do the same this way. Let me see. Got the Nikita a little bit of, and I thought I would try oils out on her. Oh, the fawn. Okay. Yeah, the large, well, even something like this is actually not a bad, if you're going to try and start with oils, this is not necessarily a bad one because there's some larger surfaces, a lot of stuff to catch that pre-glaze that we always talk about. Typically, things that have wide space, robes, wings, whatever, those can be handy things to do your first oil stuff on because you're struggling a little bit less. You're not trying to do all these tiny little shapes. So things like busts or whatever, larger things. Weekend was good. Hoping to have an awesome week. Yeah, I'm sort of looking forward to the Thursday night stream because that is where I want to be streaming my doing some more of my sculpting stuff, doing some more conversion, some Easterlings special characters. I don't, it might just be the War Priest. I don't know. Or maybe I also get started on, because there's Amdur, Master of Blades, the War Priest, and the Dragon Knight. Or is he the Black? I think he's the Dragon Knight. Those are the three characters that I need to have my Easterlings ready to go. more darks in here. Yeah, that I'm just going to have to draw in something here. That's some kind of a little bit of a tree branch thing. I don't believe that's his. Well, it could be whatever he's wearing. Oh, thanks Achilles blade. Now throwing in some more darks into the leafy areas here. Sometimes just gotta be patient. All of those there, that sticks in there because I've waited a while before I tried to throw some paint in there. This also needs to be darker. That is some of our indigo mixed with the Van Dyke brown. Should make that, ooh, that does make it really dark. Wow, yep. Nice and dark. I'm going to let that new. I was going to darken that down even more. No, won't do that. Sometimes I have to just say, yeah, maybe it's not bone, maybe it's tree texture, whatever, but I kind of need that light color there, or that light value. I think we've sharpened up that. Ooh, maybe we will also sharpen this up just a touch. Yeah. I keep waiting to do fangs on him and stuff like that, and I realize, well, no, it is a moose. It is sort of, well, it's a moose method that's kind of also now, it is turning into a tree though here. Now at this point, and we'll just do a general quick film noir here. So you can see we have plenty of shading, right? Plenty of shading. Now let's look at something here. Really focus in on these couple of areas here. This one, this one, this one, and this. They're all the same value, right? They're no lighter or darker than the other one. But when you look at this, it's kind of a pinkish gray. That's like a tan. That's sort of a purple color. And over there is more of a blue. So all of those are the same value. Actually, this and this are the same value. There's a lot of the same value here. But because the colors are different, the saturation is different. That's a whole nother realm of the color spectrum there. It's not just about lights and darks. It's not even just about warm and cool. Sometimes it's just about how saturated a color is. And we've done that. Actually, I could swear there was a stream recently we did where the only difference between one area and another area was just the red was very desaturated and the blue was, or green, whatever the other color was just the opposite. And that the values were the same. And it was even just even the red was kind of very just muddy and dark. The green, which normally would kind of be subservient to the red, since that had so much more saturation to it, that showed. I think it was probably on a Rohan. Must have been on Rohan. I think that's what it was. We got over here. Let's just gonna. There was a little bit of a texture line. I think I kind of forgot in there. Now, same thing here. We've kind of got our broccoli pretty well managed. I think there's another area of broccoli that we need to manage here. Better there. Ooh. Here's another case of it. There's just like this line right here, so it will take away the end of that line. And then that's actually some more fabric there. So I'm going to see if I can't make some kind of a fabric color like this. It's just it's a mid-tone, nothing special, but because it has a little bit of red to it, guess what? It is going to separate from that green. That might be. I don't want to do too much. That's it. That's as much as I want to do right there. Even that. See, I have to go back and get some Terra Rosa because that yellow. There we go. The yellow, even though it was lighter, it actually took away some of the contrast because, well, guess what? There's a bunch of yellow in the green right there. So actually, to go back and get red, almost darken it down. Oh yeah, I have not had a chance to do the diamond thing. Oh my gosh, in well over a month or two. So I will try and get some more diamonds out there for folks. It was a little bit easier before. Yeah, I'm also doing a little bit of Terra Rosa right here, so I feel like that I wanted just a little bit more to separate there. Because yeah, you have to go in and like search for the names and stuff like that. I think there's 82 that you can have, and I haven't even reached 40 yet. I don't even know if I've reached 30 yet. Like I said, it's been a long time since I last messed around with that. I said I did that way back in the day when someone told me what the heck those actually were. And I said, okay, well, I'll do a couple of these. It was mostly for, well, Drax and Drew and all the other fellow streamers that really were instrumental in getting the channel launched here. Yeah, I did touch more green right there, and then, okay, even these. It's nice that those are dark, but there's a couple of these need some lights. Where's my, I think this is the right one here. That's good. Yeah, there was too sharp of a transition from where the light thing was to the dark. And now we're going to take, this is a bit of our cadmium yellow here, and we're just going to stipple this on ever so lightly. So now you can see things get tighter and tighter and tighter, right? This is why with the army painting process, and we pretty much talk about this in every single series, after episode 2, we try and say, you know what, okay, yeah, this is not your finished army, but you would be okay at basically people in public seeing what you've got so far. You can always go back, add some more. So that's kind of how the army painting series work. Is the first episode is basing always, then the second episode is just starting to get into the unit, doing that kind of first down and dirty, messy stuff like what we did here with all the pre-glaze and everything. And we'll just drop a couple more. There we go. Now, what about this thing? Yeah, let's. Now, what the heck? I'll stipple a few lights onto that too. It needs a little bit of a separation. Okay, what's going on here? This is weird. There's a kind of an interruption here in the texture. Not quite sure why. Back to this side where I might do some more of that. maybe, yeah, maybe even a couple of these things here. Okay. No, no, that's that. I'll make them lighter, but not with that color. I want to have some of the blue into this. So there's some of your Prussian blue. Yeah. I mean, it's not like I want these things to actually be blue. It's just they need to be something besides all of those yellowish colors. Yeah. Like here.
Who enters my domain?
Now look at this. We got ourselves a Snickernack Studios. So how are you doing? Actually, how have you guys been? Hope you guys are doing okay out there. I know it's been a geez, it's been forever since I've been in most anybody's stream. So Snickernack, how are you doing? And folks, be sure to give Snickernack a follow. I'm sure you already are. If you're watching Twitch at this time, there's a pretty good chance you're already following Snickernack. But just in case, just double check. Twitch does that unfollow thing sometimes. So be sure to go back and check and see that you are following Snickernack. So I hope that things aren't too crazy out west for you. I know, between all the weirdness, the weather and stuff like that. Hopefully it's maybe calmed down a little bit there. And hopefully both of you guys are doing well. Now let's see. Yes and no, we're getting a second mini shutdown. I was wondering about that. Because I really only know what's going on here in this state, so I have no idea what is going on anywhere else right now. And actually, if you've got any Insta posts, any recent Instagram posts of painted stuff that you just want to pop in the chat or something like that over the last week or two, go ahead and pop some Insta stuff into the chat there. Obviously, still having fun with the oils. Still wishing that I was able to just reliably print larger things. Well, actually, I like this guy because, I mean, he's pretty darn big. He is not a tiny little miniature. Even his antlers right there are fairly sizable. All right, we'll get ourselves a couple of that same greenish color here. And not much there. Ah, you got another hour on. That's good. That is good. Oh, there's at least 30 projects going on. I have to film 3 videos tonight, and one of them is actually, well, over the next few nights. I have to film part 2 of this because part 1 we filmed last night. That was the sculpting of the Galadriel mirror pool diorama. The next one is going to be the painting and flocking, all the landscape stuff on this. Then there's also, we have to do our test of the green stuff world, metal powdered pigments on these guys. There's a dark sword video that we're going to be filming right here, so there's a lot of stuff to do. In addition to, well, all the other stuff. So that's those are 3 of the around about 30 different things that are bouncing around here all at the same time. Oh, in addition to obviously all of the conversion of the Lord of the Rings stuff, and trying to create some screens and some other technical things so that I can at least start to film Lord of the Rings battle reports, see how that goes, and then eventually live stream the Lord of the Rings games. That's the ultimate goal, is to be able to live stream those Lord of the Rings games. That is not something that's going to happen before next year. That's for sure. So I'll catch you later there, Thistle. Hopefully catch you maybe, well, Thursday night, because I'll be back here again Thursday night doing that late. Yeah, Lady B, that's where we've been using those for basing. This is their metal powdered pigments here that we're going to turn them into a liquid, and that I have not tried yet. Those arrived, and I was trying to, okay, how do we even test those things? What is a good test of them? And I thought I would put that stuff on there and then use the oils and see how that looks over the top. Oh yeah, Thaler, I thought it would be really fun uh, for folks just to kind of get to tune in and see how that goes. And heck, I don't want to necessarily rush through the games or whatever. Maybe well, since this stream is already 5.5 hours in, I think we'll be able to finish the game. I'll catch you later, Thistle, and thanks again for joining. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's throw some of our asphaltum there, kind of using it like we would the. This is interesting though. See, with the umber, I can take this, and even when it's dry, it's still actually kind of like a glaze. Yeah, see the asphaltum doesn't quite do that. I thought because the asphaltum might have some properties of burnt sienna, that maybe that would work the same way the umber does, but it doesn't quite do it. It's a little bit different texture. Now, of course, maybe one is thinned down more than the others. Let's see. I can't figure. I slept since 5 p.m. after work and just got up. Yeah, Thor, sorry that the sleep thing is kind of being a nightmare. Ironic that was not an intended pun right there. Here, let's do something. There we go. All right, what about here? That's gotta almost be. I have to keep that dark here because if these things are light and that becomes light, then we don't have any foreground, middle ground, background. We lose all that kind of stuff. We don't want that. Don't want to lose our foreground, middle ground, background. All right, let's do. Oh, what the heck? Let's just keep going with this umber here. Keep going with this umber. So you have to, Fowler, I have to figure out, okay, what camera angles work better for streaming than maybe for just a regular filmed battle report. Because obviously a film battle report, there's breaks. You're just like, okay, cut to the next scene. And live streaming, well, everything's got to be right there. Rule books, all that kind of stuff. Of course, when Zorpazorp does his, he just says, hey, chat, look up this rule for me. And literally they go in and they look up the rule for him, and it's pretty neat, actually. It's kind of fun to see that. So, okay, this is another little test. This is the asphaltum. It's relatively dry on that brush. And I was, does it act in a similar, well, see, it's kind of like it, but not quite. Maybe that's because it's not as transparent as that's it. It doesn't have the transparency that the burnt umber has. That must be it. That pigment red 101 gives you just that little bit of opacity. Speaking of pigment red 101, I'm going to take a little bit of Terra Rosa there. Like this. So light-ish, but not too light. Good enough. And it was also blending, doing a little bit of blending in there. Now, oh, this, I see another little section in here. Again, this is with, I'm really working with half of my lights on here, so sometimes little things like this just kind of get lost in the shuffle here. But now, okay, better there. That's set. Really don't want to mess around with that. I love that transition right there. We're going to keep that for sure. I will dive back into my Terra Rosa here, and that's going to go. So remember how we had to bring out this light over here? It was all softy. I'll just, like, no texture. Same thing's going to happen over here, except not quite as intense with the Terra Rosa. I basically gave it a little bit of, I think it was some of my green over there. That was the bluish green. That toned it down enough. So it's not quite so punch it in the face light. Not quite as intense. That's going to create a little separation there now. Boy, that's like two very round edges next to each other. We need to put some kind of very sharp edge between them. We shall do that this away with our indigo blue and some of the brown again. That's not normally what I would be doing right there, but I just kind of had to. That was two very round shapes right next to each other. So as I look at this, I'm going to also darken up the horns even a little bit more here. I've got this really dark color here. I'll play with that right into here. And we'll do that right up there. That is your indigo and Van Dyke brown. That's why I don't really use black very often, because those two together will actually make you something that pretty much, at least visually, will seem darker than black, mostly because it has an actual color to it as opposed to regular black, which is just kind of completely devoid of all color. There. Now, it really does help when you have a sculpt like this with all of these layers. See, foreground, middle ground, background. That's what we try to do anytime we're making a base, sculpting something, whatever, but even with painting wise. But here they did a nice job. They really gave us some good surfaces to work with here. Really gave us some nice surfaces. And yeah, at this point now, wow, I know we keep adding extra zeros to the number of hours that the Army Painter pledge is. The current number is 600, but when you consider that we're adding how many hours? We're doing at least, on average, 11 videos times 2. Yeah, we're adding 22 hours a month, somewhere between 22 and 26 hours a month to that total. So as you can see, it only takes about 4 months or so to add another 0 to that total. So I think by February we should easily be at 700 hours of content. That's way more than any Netflix show is going to give you to binge. That's for sure. All right, and I'm going to get some of that lighter tone in there. We're going to take our blending brush here, and we'll just take this, scumble that all together. Bang. It just did not take much. Did not take much to fix all that. Well, it was something I just wanted to wait on that. Whenever you're going to do that sort of blending like that, usually best to let it sit there for a little bit. As long as possible, actually. As long as possible. me see. I don't look at maybe we'll throw a little. I'm wanting to put the green into this area over here. So there's a whole bunch of not a lot of. Unfortunately, his hand is blocking that. You can't see it, but trust me, we just threw in some green right there. And I might even, yeah, just for fun. See what we did right there? So it goes green, then brown, almost kind of, there's some gold there, some red there. Even in this one little tight area, we have all this other kind of stuff. Well, I'll catch you later, One Shadow. I will catch you later, and hopefully maybe this Thursday and again, we're going to be starting pretty late. That's kind of the usual thing for Thursday. And that's where I really want to get into some of my sculpting, because that's basically my fun thing. That is the fun thing that I never ever get to do. And that's why Thursdays we're going to try and focus on that. All right, so this is that's our Terra Rosa mixed with a little bit of our white. And look at this. Almost a reddish pink that transfers into kind of a pale green. And then, oh, look at this, back out to that same pale pink highlight color. So this weird, and then actually this comes forward, which is interesting, seeing how, again, this is the warm color in all this deal. But that's a little bit lighter, and it's also where it's actually painted on the surface there. Sometimes where a color is can make as much of a difference as its saturation, all that other kind of stuff. Oh, thanks, One Shadow. Yep, that is me hopefully getting to do those Easterling characters that I never got the chance to do originally when I was playing the army. Well, actually on a very regular basis. Now, for anybody that wants to kind of get an idea of what that army was like, you can just go to the blog over there and you can look at some of the Lord of the Rings battle reports that we did. Now, those were from the older iteration of the game. That was before the new one, when they kind of redid it with the army or the Pelennor Fields box and that sort of thing. So that's before it was Middle Earth SBG.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Thank you so much for that follow, Dice Cat, and obviously Gandalf appreciates that. Well, heck, speaking of dice, you'll get to see the brand new they're brand new older Lord of the Rings dice, which should make it easier to actually be able to tell some of the dice in the tray from each other, because, well, that's a thing with Lord of the Rings. You have to have lots of different colored dice, typically. So thanks again, Dice Cat. I appreciate that one. There is a link for you there to the blog. Oh, thanks, Dice Cat. Yeah, we do have to support each other. We have to do that. And it is kind of neat, actually, to see just how many digital sculptors there are here on Twitch. That's kind of fun. I was hoping that there would be one or two. I wasn't sure how many there would be before I started doing this, because I had never really had a chance to check out Twitch at all before. My first watching of a Twitch stream was my own.